Hey, Tribe and YouTube fam. Going for a morning walk. Got my coffee here. No, it's not a Sunday coffee talk. But I wanted to talk today about having frame standards and boundaries in your life. But I'm gonna put a twist on it, okay? Like I always do. That how does having frame standards and boundaries, okay, how does that really align with success? And furthermore, how does it really align with manifesting and the subconscious mind? Because there is a major alignment to this. Okay. If, we will get to this, I don't want to get off on a tangent right now. Um, because if you don't, I mean, listen to this. If you don't have frame standards and boundaries around your life, around your environment, around people you hang out with, around your job, whatever's going on in your life, well, in short, all you're doing is communicating to your subconscious mind that you just let anything happen in your life. You just accept whatever. You know what I mean? You're not saying exactly what you want. You're kind of in this unclear zone. It's just like if you set an intention, you just say, "Oh, I want a car," but you don't know exactly what car you want. Yes, life will give you a car, but it's not your dream car. You get me on that? So let's talk about this, okay? Because there's a lot of stuff I want to say about this. And by the way, I don't have my mic on, so I can take out sound pretty good, but I didn't feel like carrying everything. Just wanted to take a relaxing walk, and feels like it's going to be a warm day today in good old Thailand. But anyway, the reason why I want to talk about this is because every once in a while I get a comment, and these comments are really on my Thailand videos, especially if I do videos around like why I left La Casita, what happened at La Casita, why I left my condo. I lived in a condo here down in Wai Hin. I'm not in Wai Hin right now, I'm up in Surin. But I'll do Thailand videos around tenant laws and stuff like that. And what's kind of funny is if those videos have like a negative connotation, or I'm saying basically kind of what happened to me, like in a condo settings living in abroad, and I'm kind of doing the video to kind of teach other people how to handle situations and what to watch out for. I mean, I'll always get comments, of course, like, "Oh, this person's a drama queen," or "Oh my God, I would never want to rent to this person." You know what I mean? But I mean, it's funny how when you do have frame standards or boundaries, people literally get butthurt over it, dude. They cry over it, then they try to flip it to you. And what's kind of funny is, they're kind of pointing out in yourself, because I'm doing a Thailand video, but when they live in their own country, they're not going to put up with it. Bottom line. Okay. You know what I mean? They're not going to put up with living in a condo when that condo is treated like a hotel. And all that does, listen guys, all that does is bring in more crime. And yes, Thailand has major crime, even though YouTubers don't say. Yes, people break in these condos, steal your mail, steal your packages. I know people at La Casita got their condos broken into because you could just walk on in there. You know what I mean? And this isn't a La Casita video. Okay, this is more why you should have standards and boundaries around your life. But this is kind of what made me think about this video, because it's so funny how people get flipping butthurt over someone else having frame standards and boundaries around their life. Then they wonder in their own life why they're not living life on their terms, why they can't get stuff to work out for them. Bottom line. And they might argue with that statement, but the proof is in the pudding. You have to understand that. The proof is in the pudding, my friends. What's the pudding? What's the proof? The proof is your own fucking life. Bottom line. Okay. Bob Proctor would say this all the time. I love Bob Proctor. When I would go to the seminars, work with him in person, he would say this in every single seminar, no matter at what level. he would always have people literally in the seminars that would debate him, in private. And he wouldn't say it exactly like me, but he would say, the proof is in your life. And if you're not getting results in your life, then you don't understand this material. Bottom line. So that's what I mean. The proof is in your pudding, and your pudding is your life and the results you're getting in your life. Okay? If you're not getting, if you're not getting the results that you want in your life, life isn't going exactly 100% the way you want it to go, then you don't know manifesting that well. Okay? So, as I'm getting heated here, let me take a sip of coffee. But when we talk about frame, standards, and boundaries, okay, this is something I've worked on in myself tremendously. Okay, like if you knew me back in high school, if you knew me back in college, if you knew me back in the beginning of my business career, I mean, I don't know how you would describe me, but I mean, some people would describe me as Chad's the master of going with the flow. You know what I mean? I just go with the flow. And there is an advantage of going with the flow a little bit, but people who really just go with the flow 100% of the time don't have frame, standards, or boundaries in their life. Okay. And that was me. Then if we take it a little bit deeper, like when I was raised, I mean, as long as I lived at home, and this was going through college, as long as I lived at home, you did what dad wanted you to do, period. Okay. He planned your whole day. Even if you had plans to do something else, you broke those plans to do what dad wanted you to do. And I don't mean when you're 10 years old. I mean, you're 20 years old living at home because you're going to college. You come home in the summers or breaks, it would just go into the same rotation. Okay. And my dad was a type that, if you stood up to him, he would just be like, oh, you think you're a big man? I'll take you outside right now and show you're not a big man. He'll beat the shit out of you. You get me on that? So in that realm, I kind of grew up, very kind of timid, passive, and that kind of led into not having frame, standards, or boundaries. That's a deeper layer in there, and I kind of share that with you because I'm not alone in this. Some people resonate with it. Some people grew up the same way, but all that is that takes a lot of work to work through. To really set frame, standards, and boundaries, because when you first start off setting frame, standards, or boundaries around your life, you're kind of scared as shit. You're uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And in the beginning, you don't even know what your frame is. You don't even know what standards and boundaries you have because you're so used to just giving up what other people want. You're basically giving up yourself to please other people, but you're doing it on the extreme side. I'm not saying you never do it. Don't take what I'm saying the wrong way. What I'm saying is you're doing it to the extreme where you're always giving up what you want to do to please somebody else. And that's in every single situation. Okay. So if kind of, holy crap, kind of the work that I have to do to kind of have frame, standards, or boundaries around my life, around my environment, okay, inside my relationships, okay, that could be sexual relationships, that could be attracting your SP, that could be friendships and business partnerships and business, you have to have frame, standards, or boundaries because if you're older, okay, you're going to be able to agree with this 100%. I mean, if you don't have standards or boundaries, adults are worse than kids. Okay, I don't know why that's true, but it's really true. Adults are worse than kids, meaning that adults will, once they can sense that you're passive, okay, they see how much they can get by with you. They see how much, They can talk down to you, see how much you'll take before you basically say, stop doing it. You know what I mean? You basically pull them aside and say, hey, look, this is what you've been doing. This is what you've been saying. I don't like it. I look at it as disrespectful. I show you respect. I would like the same thing in return. Okay. And there are situations where they're not going to listen to you. And if that happens, well, guess what? You got to make a choice. Okay. Now, if it's an easy choice that I just don't hang around the person, that's easy. Now, if it's happening at work, well, you got to escalate the issue. I don't know, maybe a snake or something over there. Got all the leaves on the side here. Heard something rattle. You might see me taking off running. I mean, you get me on that? Because lots of times this stuff is happening in your workplace by your supervisors, managers, senior management. They think they can talk to you any way they want. Then you have to escalate it. You know what I mean? If you really want to uphold your boundaries. Now let's move on. Let's move on. Like, how does, like I said in the beginning of the video, how does having standards and boundaries, how does that really relate to manifesting? How does it really relate to your subconscious mind? Because I said that in the beginning, like when you have standards and boundaries and a strong frame, it all relates, it all connects. And what you have to understand is when you don't have standards or boundaries around your life, okay, it's literally almost like identical that you don't know what you want. Okay. Like you don't have an intention. You don't know what you want to manifest. So it's basically just that. If you don't know what you want to manifest, well, manifesting is going to work for you. You understand that. It's a direct connection. I want to go in there and sit, but I don't want to walk through the grass because the grass is getting long. And you do have to be careful in Thailand, especially up in these villages. They do have a lot of snakes. They got scorpions up here too, so you got to be careful of the scorpions. So just like you don't want to walk through like tall grass like that. You don't know what's sitting in there waiting for you. Try to go in here, sit down, have a serious conversation with you. Plus, it's getting hot out too. So let me kneel. Okay. So this is a direct connection, is that, through many of my videos, I've said that with your subconscious mind listens to you 24 hours a day. So when you're always vague, well, in life, you're not going to get what you want. You're kind of going to get vagueness in your life. If you just say, I want a car, well, yes, the universe is going to deliver you a car, but it's probably not your dream car because you weren't specific. So it works the same way, not having standards and boundaries. See, let me give you an example. And now I can give you personal examples with this, but I love Neville Goddard because a lot of you love Neville Goddard. And Neville Goddard actually uses this example in his live lectures, live recordings. It's not AI. You can check it out on my playlist. I have a huge playlist of Neville Goddard on my channel here. But Neville Goddard would always use this example. And he was eating at this very, very fancy restaurant. And they brought him over his food. And with his food, I think they cooked it right and everything. I think he ordered like a steak, but he wanted some type of like truffle sauce or whatever, or sauce that they didn't bring over to him. So he basically flagged down the waiter. The waiter came over, and I guess the waiter had an attitude with him, or the waiter made a face like he didn't want to go get it, or something like that. Even today, nowadays, we deal with the same thing. But Neville pulled him aside and said, hey, look, and he was kind of like, you almost would say rude, you know what I mean? But Neville said, well, am I eating in a charity? Is this food for free? And the waiter was like, well, of course not. And Neville said, exactly, I'm paying for it. Now, since I'm paying for the food, I want the food exactly how I want it. I want it cooked exactly how I want it cooked. So if I want this sauce, he said, I know you have this sauce in the back. So if I'm paying for the food, I want you to go get the sauce and bring me the sauce, please. Okay. But then he said, but then he kind of goes on. And he said, well, if I was eating for free, I would be fine. Okay. It's free. But if I'm paying for it, I want the food cooked exactly how I want it. And if I want the truffle sauce or steak sauce or whatever I want, I know you have it in the back. So go get it, please, because I'm paying for it. Okay. And if you really listen to Neville Goddard, you really listen to his live lectures, and it's not AI because AI is so popular now. I mean, Neville could be kind of a dick, okay, when it came to this stuff. Okay. And if you're new to Neville, if you listen to kind of that stuff of Neville and you kind of hear the tone of his voice, I mean, at first you think, oh my God, this guy's a dick. I don't want to go out and eat with this guy. You get what I'm saying? But the bottom line is, see, Neville knew the secret. Neville knew, and this is the whole point of this, Neville knew that you get out of life what you tolerate. Bottom line. You know what I know? You know what I mean? Listen, you're training your subconscious mind that you get exactly what I say. Okay, I get exactly what I say and demand in life. So if I'm not standing up for myself, well, that's just a self-reflection. That's a mirror principle in my life. Okay, that stuff's going to come to me, or that vagueness is going to come to me. Okay, Neville knew that. Okay, he maybe didn't communicate it that way, but he knew that. He knew there was a direct connection between what you put up with and training your subconscious mind. Bottom line, okay? That's why it's so important to have standards and boundaries and to uphold and enforce your standards and boundaries. Because what's happening when I uphold, I enforce a standard, I'm training my subconscious mind. For one, Chad always gets what he says. Chad always does what he says. Okay. Another example is, this is kind of cheesy, workout equipment here they have in Thailand. Okay. But if I sit there and tell myself, I'm going to wake up today, I'm going to work out, I need to hold to my commitments because I'm training my subconscious mind that I always do what I say. So this is across the board. Okay. I always do what I say. I always get what I say. And if someone crosses my standards or boundaries, I'm going to correct it. Bottom line, I'm not going to let it continue to happen because I know it's a self-reflection of my life. I know that's going to come, that vagueness is going to come into me. You almost fell. That almost flipped out my foot in there. I thought I was going to smash my foot. You get me on that? That's why it's so important. There's many reasons to have frame standards and boundaries around your life. Okay. But it's one thing having frame standards and boundaries, and it's another thing upholding those frame standards or boundaries. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to uphold it. Okay. Nobody wants to basically pull someone aside and say, hey, stop. You know what I mean? Or if it's in a business associate, it's you living somewhere where you have to set up meetings and negotiations to basically say, oh, this is what's going on. I don't like it. And if we can't work it out, then I need to leave. Bottom line. Okay. Because I'm repeating myself because you guys don't get this. Listen, you're training your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is listening to you 24 hours a day. It doesn't sleep. It doesn't sleep like your conscious mind. Your conscious mind gets sleepy. Okay. Your subconscious mind is just going off of your emotions, behaviors, what you put up with. And that's what you constantly see in your life until you stop it. Makes sense? Until you say, no. Okay. It's like the same thing. It's like, let's say I can't do this over here. Let's say there's two cars sitting here. And one of them's my dream car, and one of them's just like a Honda Civic or whatever. And someone said, Chad, you can have either or. What car do you want? Of course, I'm gonna say, oh, I want my dream car. Okay. I'm not gonna choose the Honda Civic because my dream car's sitting right there. I can have it. Okay, but that's how direct you got to be when you want something. That's how direct you got to be when you uphold boundaries and standards. Because what I want you to get here before I let you go, because we've talked enough about this topic, is that everything connects. There's no separate. Everything connects in a loop. Okay, you're not fooling the universe. You're not fooling God. You're not fooling your subconscious mind. And this is what you guys are falling in a trap of. You guys don't want you don't want to live the lifestyle of live life on your terms because that's too much for you. That's too hard for you. Well, I don't want to change my life. But yet you want to be a millionaire. You want your dream house. You want your dream car. You want to give to charities. But what you have to understand is, in order to have those things, you got to become a better version of you. And that better version of you, that most successful version of you, isn't going to put up with mediocrity. It's not going to put up with poverty consciousness. It's not going to put up with people crossing your standards and boundaries. You're going to stop it once you see it. Okay. Bottom line. Okay, you got to do this stuff. Okay, you got to ask yourself that, what would the most successful version of me do in this situation? What would that person do? And I would bottom line, probably bet you $1,000 right now that most successful version of you isn't going to put up with bullshit. They're not going to put up with someone taking advantage of them. You know, they're not going to live somewhere in a condo. The condo's treated like a hotel. They're gonna see it. They're gonna go to the proper people. They're gonna try to solve it. They're gonna try to go to the owner. If nobody will work with them, then it's like, boom, I'm out. You know what I mean? Okay, I've done my part. Nobody wants to work with me, so let me out of my lease. If you don't let me out of my lease, I'm gonna go to the OCPD and file a complaint. Bottom line, they basically know that you or me, when it comes down to it, okay, we're going to stand up for ourselves. I'm trying to not use bad language here. You know what I mean? You're going to stand up for yourself. You're not going to be walked on. Okay, it's the same thing. If I set an appointment, even like I did this in Thailand, Thai people always show up flipping late. And I set an appointment to speak to my agent, and this is like in the past. Agent don't even show up. You know? You know what I mean? I'm sitting there waiting for her when I could go out and be doing something else. They don't even show up. Or they show up 3 hours later, and I'm just like, no, that doesn't happen. It's not me being rude, but no, you need to respect my time. I don't care if I'm in Thailand. I don't care where I'm that one, but you're not respecting my time. Okay? Because I do know, like, if you're going to sign a lease, 100% they're on time because they're making money. Once you sign that lease, they just don't show up. You know what I mean? Or they show up 3 hours late. No, it don't work like that. Okay, I'm not just sitting in my condo waiting for you for hours. Okay, you say you're going to be here at 2 p.m., you're here at 2 p.m. Bottom line. Now, if you're 10 minutes late, that's fine. But 2 hours, hour late, 2 hours late, no. Homie, don't play that. You get me on that? Some people get butthurt for it, but if you're butthurt over it, it's because you don't have standards and boundaries, baby. You're just putting up with BS in your life. And until you get a little bit older, until people start doing it really to you, then the story changes. Then you sit there and say, you know what, Chad was right. Of course I'm right. I'm 100% right on this because I'm older, and you also are talking to somebody that didn't grow up this way. You're talking to somebody that didn't grow up having frame standards of boundary, that put up with bullshit from people in high school, college, even in the workplace, professional. I mean, I was really lucky in my career. I mean, after college, I pretty much moved straight into senior management. I was really lucky in my career, at the beginning of my career. Okay. But again, you know, I put myself in situations where I had to get better at my standards and boundaries. I had to. If not, I was just going to be chewed up and spit out. You get me? You have to become bulletproof. You have to, because lots of times like you think it's going to get easier the more money you make, but sometimes it doesn't, because the more money you make, you're around more powerful people, and you're around people that will just flip and chew you up and spit you out. And that doesn't mean you have to be mean, but they need a sense from you that you don't put up with bullshit. Okay? They got a sense from you like, Chad might take a little, but he's going to stop you. Like, once you cross a line, he's going to say, okay, you're overstepping a line here. stop. Okay. Then whatever, if you keep on doing it, whatever I need to do to stop it, I'm going to stop it. Bottom line. But other than that, my friends, I'm ranting and raving here. I know I kind of repeated myself a lot, but most of you guys got to listen to this stuff. Okay. You struggle with it like I do. And, you know, you can't, people's going to make fun of you for it. Pretty much people who don't live your life will make fun of you. Pretty much people who are not rich like you will make fun of you. You know, that makes sense. You know, that's the name of the game. The brokies will make fun of you. Bottom line, people more unsuccessful than you will make fun of you because that's the only thing they got to do in their life. They think they get ahead. They think it bothers you, but it really don't. You know what I mean? It really just it just kind of gives me more fuel to live life on my terms, do what I want to do, stay in my lane, baby. You know what I mean? But other than that, tribe, just want to share that with you. It's more heart-to-heart talk. A little bit, get my blood boiling a little bit, in the mood to talk about it. But other than that, peace out. Comment below, of course, if you lasted this long. And remember, I love you guys, and I'll see you at the top, baby.